I watched 28 Years Later, so here are my spoiler-free thoughts. I was really excited for this film. I consider myself a fan of the franchise. I love that first film, 28 Days Later. It was the first time I saw Cillian Murphy in anything. Naomie Harris is such a badass. Great story, and I love that we're following kind of general zombie rules, but because they're infected, there's this interesting human element that comes into play with our creatures. 28 Weeks Later, I did like some story elements of that film, but we have a ton of characters making really dumb decisions, and that can always be frustrating in a horror movie. Generally, I liked the filmmaking style of the gritty camera work, and the score is great and builds in the perfect moments. That's what I was missing from this film. Even though it did take some unique stylistic choices in terms of how it was filmed, I saw that it was filmed on several iPhones. But it does stick to the core theme of these films that I think the film tries to speak to, that humanity is just as bad, if not worse, than these infected who cannot help what they do, because these films always give us a deplorable depiction of humans in these dire situations. And this film is no different. I really liked the story they crafted here. We're seeing a island community isolated from the mainland, and they have this rite of passage ritual where a child 12 to 14 goes out to the mainland to get their first kill. So that's where we meet Aaron Taylor Johnson and his young son Spike, who he takes to do this ritual. Also get this really great tension builder with this causeway that they have to walk across to get to the mainland. If it's high tide, the causeway is not visible, they cannot walk across it, and they could get swept out to sea, so they have to wait until the tide is low, adding this great pressure to moments of the movie. Of course, once they get to the mainland, things do not go as planned. And I love that we're getting a bit of evolution with the infected that we see in this movie, just elevating the threat a little bit from what we've seen in the previous two films. The performances are great in this film. Ralph Fiennes, Aaron Taylor Johnson, particularly the young man who plays Spike. I believe his name is Alfie Williams. And Jodie Comer is great as well. We're getting some really interesting depictions of manhood and fatherhood in this film. The most polarizing thing I think for people is the ending, which I will talk about in a separate video, as I have since learned some more things about it. And it is just an incredibly jarring tonal shift. It felt like it could have been an end credit scene or a mid credit scene, as there are going to be 2 more films after this one. So I did give it some grace for that, as it's continuing a story, which is why I think it would have worked as a mid credit scene, because they do tie up our story that we're following pretty nicely, than to go into this kind of a bonkers thing that it does go into. While it did kind of come out of nowhere, it did have me intrigued onto where this movie's going to go and how Nia DaCosta is going to depict the things that we saw in this last little bit. So I really enjoyed 28 Years Later. If you saw it, let me know what you think, and what did you think of that ending?